Okay, the stream has started. Or I hit start. So we're gonna go ahead and select that source. And we're waiting for everybody to catch up. Yeah, it seems to be taking longer. And all of a sudden now it's now. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we're finally live. I finally see it on my side. Let's see if you see it on your side. By the way, if you're watching a recording, we're going to start here in just a minute. Everything's a little slow today. So it looks like Twitch is up. Let's give this a try today. See if I can get this up and running, but I don't think I can. I'm going to try the chat system here. And yeah, it seems to be taking longer. And all of a sudden now it's not. Okay. I'm going to post a chat and see if that works. Okay, so it looks like, oops, Twitter is still trying, but it looks like everything else should be up and running. Oh, yay! Okay, Twitter is up. Twitter is up, and at least it's showing on my side. I don't know, I'll find out later whether or not it actually works. So we'll see. We'll leave that up and running. And again, if you're watching a recording, I'm going to start here in another minute. On my side, I'm showing that everything should be up and running. So this is QFOM Gray, and this is Q Talk Live. It's the last one of the year. Oh my gosh, we made it to the end of the year. And I am simulcasting today on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. Twitter's new. Q Talk on Facebook and QFOM Gray on Facebook. So if you're on one of those platforms, do reach out and say hi because it helps our algorithm. Let's finish the year strong, right? And thanks everyone for all the likes and all the support this year. It has been a hectic year, but it's been a good year. I don't know if you're on my Facebook page, the Q Talk page. I posted a year in numbers. I can't believe I finished this year with 95 projects. Oh my gosh, that's like almost 2 a week, which is sort of crazy. Didn't exactly expect that number to be that high, but I did take the time out to sit down and add all those numbers up, and over 200 Zoom hours. Of course, not counting any privates or any shall we say, sessions with other instructors, but that is just teaching hours. And you know, the other number that was a bit of a surprise for me too was the in-person classes. I can't believe that I actually taught 44 in-person classes. I was really expecting to say something like 20. And I guess in a certain way that just sort of makes me speculate, how many classes was I teaching before the pandemic? Because I was doing at least 15 to 18 in-person events with no less than 5 classes per event. I mean, heck, beat and button, I was teaching like 12, 15 classes during that week. So it would be interesting. I guess I could go back and count it just for fun, right? And see what happened in 2019. If you're on my personal Facebook page, you'll see what I posted last night regarding the difference between 2019 and 2021 travel map. I posted a map of all the places that I traveled to, but except in 2019, I didn't post anything outside the country. But I believe I left the country twice. Anyway, that said, it's really interesting to see how the travel has gone to like this much. But anyway, so that's the year. How are we doing out there, Andy? So hi Karen, how are you? Andy's like, you have a comment from Narak? That's Karen spelled backwards, by the way. So, so hi Karen. More rings. Well, you know, I posted a bunch of rings the other day. Did you order one? Probably not your size, huh? But did you see this one? This one's fun. This one's still available, and it has little bronze pieces on the inside. But anyway, this is sort of organic, but it's still available. We'll put it on. How's that? Okay, so today what we're doing is we're finishing up last week's UFO. UFOs were projects that were sent to me from other people who did not finish their projects. So unfinished objects is what they are. And so I'm finishing up last week's UFO. So last week what we did was we built this piece with this cabochon, okay? And there wasn't quite enough time to do all the finishing, and I thought, you know, it sort of would work well, considering this is the end of the year, that we do a finishing project on it, or I show you how to do some finishing. So in here, you know, it's never really pretty until it is pretty. So what we need to do is do a bit of sanding and get this nice and smooth. You know, you can still see some scratches back here, and we're going to get all these sides really nice and even and smooth. And I'm going to walk you through the steps to do that. This has been pickled. Oops. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the inside of this. And, you know, my toothbrush that I like to use is a little bit too soft to get some of this stuff off and to get it clean. And it doesn't really have to get particularly clean because I'm going to put a cover over it anyway, and I'll explain why here in a minute. So what I'm using is I'm using my brass scratch brush, which is on our website at theurbanbeater.com, instead of the large brass brush, because I can't really get in there. As you can see, it's really small, right? So I'm just getting in there with a scratch brush. And I also decided that I did not want to use the one that goes onto my flex shaft because I couldn't get it there either. Like, where is it? Here it is. So I really want to get into these little spots, and like this curve, as you can see, this curve doesn't work all that well. And so I felt like using this was going to work out a lot better, and it does. Okay, my solder didn't flow all the way. As you can see, you can still see little granules, but I'm okay with that because it did flow to where I needed it, and it sealed everything I need to seal, and this is on the inside. Last week we were also debating on whether or not we should cut this open on the inside, and I've absolutely decided not to do that, and I have reasons for that, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and use this brass brush and just sort of clean up everything that I can, just as a preliminary cleanup, right? Nothing big, just to get some of this white oxide off. And this is just really nice to get it there. Just a little bit, like so. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and work on setting this piece. So one of the things I always keep on my workbench is a piece of dental wax because it helps me lift my stone. So there's a little bit of a hint for you. And this stone is going to go in like so. But here's a problem that I encountered when I was doing this, is that the bezel is a little bit too high on this side of the stone. So you can see, maybe you can't see, hold on, put a white piece of paper up so you can actually see this. Okay. So you can see that this side is thicker than this side, and this bezel is even, so I need to lift it. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I went ahead and cut a back plate for it. This is just simply 24 gauge. It can be any gauge that you want. I needed a little bit more lift, so I'm going with 24 instead of 26. And another thing too is by putting a piece inside of this, I'm creating reflective value, because if you're looking very closely, you'll see that I have polished this piece to a high polish, not that side, this side. Actually, I'm going to polish it just a little bit more, and this will give it reflective value. So if you don't want to cut the backside out and you just want it to be closed, then you have a clear stone, you might want to go ahead and give it a mirror shine to give that reflective value that you want for those clear stones. You know, the transparent stones, the translucent stones, you see? And I'm using a pro polish pad, also on the urbanbeater.com, and you can see here in a second, absolute mirror shine, okay? Additionally, as I mentioned, that one corner is thinner than the other corner. So I actually want to put this on a tilt. So I'm going to put another piece of silver in here. Inside, just scrap metal like that. And that will lift that side up nicely. Okay. And we're going to do it like so. Wish me luck. I have not tried this yet. And up. And I'm assuming it's going to be nice and clean. Actually, not nice and clean. I'm going to assume that it's going to fit. And you know what? I also decided maybe I should clean the stone before I set it in there. Ah! Okay. Let's just do that. Now, if you have a particularly clear stone or transparent stone, make sure your hands are clean too. Free of oils is a good thing because you know what? Even on the back plate there, you can get fingerprints and that's not pretty. Okay. We're just gonna put that like so and give it a little, oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice, okay. Not a huge squeeze, just enough to drop in there. You know, when you're making a bezel, you don't want to have to force your stone in because sometimes if you force your stone in, it'll crack. So you gotta be real careful of that. All right. So then we're going to use our bezel setter, bezel rocker, and I like this bezel rocker in particular instead of the one that is flat. Actually, I think I have that. I can show you. You know, if you don't have, I do. If you don't have this one and you already bought this one, these are only $5. It's worth the investment. You know, it has this really nice curve and additionally it's a bit thicker than this one. Granted, these are really inexpensive too. I think they're all $3. I know you're spending like 50% more, but it's really worth it to have this bezel rocker. It works so much better than this one. It's funny because when somebody, I don't even know why I have this one. Why I have this one? Probably at some point or another, I was back ordered and I needed it for a class. But when somebody comes to class with this bezel rocker, I was just like, yeah, we're just not going to use that one. And I pull out mine and I use this. So we're just going to start by tucking in the sides just a little bit. And we're going to go with the cardinal points. I can never remember. Anyway, so left, right, top, bottom, just to set it in place. Just, as you can see, tiny little bit working in like so. And it just sort of puts it right in place. So you can see the little dents that move in, okay? I'm going to switch cameras here. Let's see if I can get that so that you can I had it positioned perfectly earlier. There we go. Okay, so that you can absolutely see what I am doing, okay? A little bit closer. So now that I've got it tucked in, I'm going to go to a couple more points and I'm going to move that in. Just to keep it even. Even though I know my stone is a little bit tight and it's not going anywhere, I like to do it this way because it's just muscle memory and you know, it helps keep things consistent. Okay, so now that I have it all tucked in, we're just going to roll it all the way around. Like so. Nice and even. You know what? I am going to pull this out like so. I have it on a mouse pad. You know, if you have a mouse pad, you should work on it. It's nice because it keeps things from scratching. It's nice and gushy, which is great. And even though it looked a bit gnarled on the sides, as I'm working the sides in, it's evening up. I'm sorry? There we go. Actually, you know, hold on a second. I'm gonna, oops. I need to move this closer to my body. So I'm just working my way all the way around and making that bezel hug the stone. Get that corner down nicely. And you can see how I have a little bit of a lip here. We're just going to move that in with the bezel rocker. And it'll all smooth out. It should all smooth out. How's that? Just have to work it. There we go. And it's in. Okay, so I have just a little bit here. I'm just going to work that down a little bit. Corners are always hard. And actually it's a little too gushy for that corner, so I'm putting it back on the bench. Sometimes I need a little bit more stability. God, my hands aren't working today. So once you have that, you want to take out your burnisher, and on the edge, on the curve like that, you see that? You're going to burnish down the sides, and you can see it's nice and shiny there and smooth. So you'll do that for the whole thing until it is done. I'm being really careful right now. And I'm using the tip because I have just a little bit of an edge on here because of my frame. So I'm just using the tip just to get right in there. The frame is sort of presenting a bit of an obstruction, but usually I do it more like this, you see, where I have space. But I am giving it good amount of pressure, and what I'm doing is I'm burnishing it, meaning I'm pushing down on the metal to get it nice and smooth. Like I can totally see, I don't know if you can, but I can totally see this shine that's coming up on that edge, and I can feel this, that the transition is really nice and smooth. So you guys ready for the new year? Yay. Ready to put this year behind us? Ready to jump into something different? A better year? Okay, this needs a little bit more work right here. And notice how I'm holding that. I always have my finger under it, and I never go this direction because that's a bad deal. Pretty good. Okay, so now let's do some finishing work and get this really nice and pretty. I'm gonna switch over cameras again. Here we are. And what are we gonna use? Let's see. So, you know, when you're doing finishing, you just have to let the metal talk to you and tell you what it needs. I don't know why, but I seem to have a blemish back here. So I'm going to pull out my silicone wheel because it's just a little bit. It's not a lot, right? And so I'm not going to use my sanding disc right now. But if there was more, I'd use a sanding disc because it's a little bit more abrasive than the silicone. So here we just use the silicone. I have just a blemish right there. Again, don't know what that's from. Don't you hate it when you're doing finishing and all of a sudden like these little blemishes come up even though you thought you were being so careful? there. Okay, so here, as I'm looking at this, okay, I can see little scratches. All right, again, you got to let the metal talk to you and tell you what it needs. And so what I mean by that is, you know, the scratches are a little bit heavier than what the silicone disc is going to do. It's going to take a lot of work to get off of that silicone. So I'm going to move back to some 500. And I'm going to see if I can get all the scratches out to the smoothness of the 500 grit sandpaper. And also get that blemish out a little bit better. You know what, I'm going to move to something a little bit heavier just for that. I know, it's like the smallest little thing. I can't let it go. I just can't do it. I should just let it go. So again, you're going to just sit here and work on this until you get the blemishes out. Okay. So that was 400. So now I'm going to re-sand it with the 500 until everything looks nice and smooth to the grit of the 500. So all the scratches are now even, right? Because when you're sanding, you are scratching it. So you want it to be really nice and even to this 500. A little bit of cleanup on this corner. Yeah, don't forget your corners. You know, it's so nice to be able to just look at this big surface and go, oh, I'm done, but it's not. Okay, so we're working on getting this to a mirror shine today. That's the finishing of all this. I do like working with a spongy sandpaper. It seems to just grab all the surfaces nicely. We have these on the website, don't we, honey? Sponge sandpaper. For some reason, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to move to 600 because we want to get this to a mirror shine. So anytime you want to get to a mirror shine, you got to work it all the way down to 600. Some people like to go down to 800 and 1000, but I don't think it's necessary. Because from here, you can go ahead and move right into polishing. See, so it was done so nicely with the 500, there's no need to, it didn't take long to get to the 600. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and sand all the other surfaces at that 600. Just to make sure that everything was taken out. I'm sure you saw that I had some blemishes down here. I'm going to show you how to clean that off here in a second. Do a little bit with the sandpaper, but I'm going to put it on a wheel instead. Okay, so it's nice. A little bit more here. Okay, so I'm going to switch over. Actually, you know what? We'll use the silicone again. So if you have these knife edges and you have worn out that nice thin edge, you can put it right back in by running it on some sandpaper. Let's grab the sandpaper, and literally we're just going to run it on some 100 grit sandpaper. And look, it gives you that nice sharp edge again. It makes a huge mess, but totally worth it. Get rid of that. There we go. And what's nice about this is you can get right into this edge. Let's see if I can work that. And get that cleaned up. See, isn't it nice? It can get right into those edges. You're not going to be able, it's really hard to do this by hand. So every so often, you're going to have to pull out something mechanical. If you have the tools, use them. You know, I was talking to a jeweler who didn't have a flex shaft. She did everything by hand. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so much work. I saw a little blemish there, so I'm just helping it out. And then comes these little corners in here. You can see it's really dirty. So how do we get into those corners? Those are always the trickiest parts, and it drives me crazy. It takes just time, so much time. So I'm going to employ the 3M radial brushes, and get right in there. And hopefully it'll do its job for me. Be careful though, when you're doing this, the biggest hazard is right here, is this nail head that's holding it in. I forget a lot of times that it's there, and I end up scratching something else. So I'm gonna hit the inside of this too while I'm at it. You know, a lot of people at this point would just throw this in the tumbler. I suppose you can do that, but it's not really the best finishing technique. What's nice is it's so flexible that I can get into the bristle brush is so flexible I can get into the really tight spots. I'm just going to take a little bit of time, but I'm going to switch out here in a second to another head. There it is. See? So it's cleaning up really nicely. And it's not hurting my stone, which is great. Okay, so now I'm just checking to see if I have any other blemishes I want to take out, and I do. Let's see what else we got in here that we can use. We're going to go with another silicone. It's a silicone bullet. This is the blue one. It's a little bit more fine, less abrasive. Just a little bit of a, oh yeah, just a little bit of a touch-up. And I'm just going to the inside of this. So again, it's about finding the part that's going to fit and not cause other problems. And see how I have that point on there? Again, if you lose that point over time, you can just put it back onto a low grit sandpaper like a 100 or 150 and reestablish that point. So this is nice too, because I can just put that point right into the area I want it to be and clean up some stuff on the inside. There you go. Okay. I think that's it. I think we're going to polish. So if you don't have a buffing wheel, this is a poor man's buffing wheel. You know, I Or if you don't have, for me, I don't have the footprint. I don't have the space, despite the fact that I have this whole studio thing here. I just don't feel that I have the space for a buffing wheel. And, you know, back when I started, a honest to God buffer was like $500. Couldn't afford it. And now the prices absolutely come down. I think you can pick it up for like $150 anymore. And they're a lot smaller. Although it doesn't have the vacuum on it, it's still really great. The one piece of advice I'm going to give you is do not buy the one from Harbor Freight. I did. It was like $30 and it went to pot, like really quickly. So that said, you know, some things are worth the money. But if you don't have the footprint or the money, you can buy a muslin wheel and some Lustre. Mine's just cut up. Lustre usually comes in a 1 pound container, and it is a wax, so it is hard. I was contacted not too long ago by a student that said, "Hey Q, I think my Lustre went bad. It's hard as a rock." I'm like, well, it should be hard. A rock? I don't know, but it's, you know, it is meant to be a little bit hard. So the key here is don't overwork it, because you don't want you don't want to be melting the wax that is in your polishing compound, whether it's Lustre or anything else, right? But you'll just embed a bit of polishing compound onto your muslin wheel like you would a buffing wheel, and we're going to go through and start buffing. And you're just going to hit all the surfaces evenly. And you can see right there really quickly how I'm getting a mirror shine out of it. Now when you're doing this, I don't know if you can see this, but you see all that black that's coming up? That's just schmutz, right? It's just dirt and polish. Don't worry about that. You can use your ultrasonic cleaner, or even just some Dawn liquid soap and a toothbrush and a little bit of warm water, and that will all come out. So you're not going to sit here and polish this to remove that black. You're just going to polish it to make sure that you hit all the surfaces and they're nice and shiny. And a lot of times, though, if you've made a mess, you won't know if you've hit all the surfaces until after you have washed it. So sometimes it takes a couple tries, meaning wash it, look at it, buff it some more, wash it. So you'll also notice that I'm only using one step of polishing compound because I'm using Lustre. It is considered a finishing step. So your traditional jeweler will have gone from your red to, I believe it's red, to your yellow, rouge, or polishing compound. And they do it in steps like you would your sandpaper, or your sanding. But here with this, it is a finishing compound, so I don't need to worry about that. And you know, the funny story about this is when we were doing shows as an urban beater, I would demo. This is how we would sell Lustre, right? We would always sell Lustre every time I demoed this. You're like, oh my gosh, I have a flex shaft. You know, a $2.50 investment on a muslin wheel and $8 on Lustre was a great way to go. So we would sell a ton of this stuff, and I would offer to polish people's jewelry. Like, you know, the guys with the pink stuff, how they always offer to polish your jewelry or clean your jewelry. Well, anyway, so I was standing there demoing, and I needed a piece of jewelry to clean because I had cleaned everything that I could possibly clean. And I said to this woman who was standing there and was very interested, I said, oh, here, if you give me your ring, I'll polish it for you. And she's like, it's a Cartier. As if, I mean, I understand they're expensive, but as if I was going to ruin it. The bottom line of the story is, this is a professional way of polishing your jewelry. This is a professional way of doing things. Just because I'm doing it in a smaller scale doesn't make it any less professional than anybody else. So there's my point. Suck on that, right? You know, I just love it when people think if they have the impression that you're a crafter, that you're doing anything less than what a person who has a store would do. It's not true. That is just their bias. That's my last word for the end of the year, right? So now I'm just going to try to clean the inside. And again, hit all the surfaces, okay? And that's it. So now I'll hit the bezel and make it really nice and shiny. Get that cleaned up. Oh yeah, it looks so much better now. I know it looked a little bit wonky there, but now that I've hit it with this polish, it is so much better. By the way, if you have any questions, do shout out. This is going to be a quick one today. I'm not going to make it to the full hour, but that's okay. Well, I'm pretty happy with this piece. Look at that. And you see this on your fingers? That's jeweler's hands, and that's okay. Because we're jewelers. This is what we do. Just be happy. Okay, so when you're doing this, if nothing's happening, then you're not putting enough pressure on your piece, just FYI. Thanks for the compliment out there. Okay. So from here, typically you would put it in ultrasonic cleaner. I would put it under some warm water with a toothbrush and some Dawn liquid soap because I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner either. I know, I need to get one of those things. But I'm just gonna wipe up all of the polish. As you can see, nice and shiny. The mirror shine has absolutely come up, which is great. Makes me happy. And I'm just going to take off the polish. So, you know, it does take time to get things nice, and you got to give yourself the amount of time it takes. Sometimes it takes longer to finish than it does to even construct the piece, because you do want to give it that little bit of extra attention and love. That's how I like to put it. A little bit of love at the end there is how we're going to finish that. And there's the piece. Done. Deal. Again, I'm gonna go put this under some water and wipe it up some more. But so finishing, give it time, and you know, as we're finishing up the year, 52 weeks, here we are. Yay! Looking forward to 2022. Metal Immersion is coming up in a few weeks. Next week, next week I'm going to be at Tuscarora Lapidary Society, which is in Brookhaven, Pennsylvania. We've got 4 classes going on there, including color wave and an enamel class, a couple other classes. So if you are in the area or want to tune in via Zoom, the Zoom option hybrid is available if you go to lapidary.org. And I think on Monday I'm going to be back. I don't know. I can't remember. In January, I'm going to start up another series on Monday of enamels for a little while, just to change it up. And then, I don't know, a few things going on. January's a little bit hit or miss because I'll be out of town for about 12, 13 days, so we're going to try to go live while I'm gone. Oh, next Wednesday, we are doing the Wine on Wednesday. I'm going to do it from Pennsylvania. Join us. Let's ring in the new year. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. I hope you stay safe, and for your New Year's gathering and bringing in the new year, no drinking and driving, remember that. And Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you again to everyone who has shown us all the support this past year and then some. we really looking forward to 2022. There's so much for everyone to be looking forward to, including myself. So until then, have a great rest of the week. I hope you learned something this year, and maybe you will learn